rank the mainstream Resident Evil games from in a tier list, and I just lost you as our internet went off. Great. So I'm going to rank the Resident Evil games, just the mainline ones, and the ones that I've played, if there is some extra ones in there, but mainly just the mainline ones. Because obviously Resident Evil 4 is coming out soon. I'm super excited about it. And I like talking about Resident Evil because it's an amazing franchise. So let's start right at the beginning, the original Resident Evil 1. For what this game is, it's hilarious. It's not scary. It's not the greatest game of all time. It's not a great game. It's hilarious when you go back and play it now. But for what it was at the time, because you've got the live action cutscenes and the gameplay is very, very stiff. Because as you can probably imagine with the first Resident Evil game, it plays okay for a classic PS1 game, and it did kick the franchise off. So I'm going to give it a good B tier. Because we wouldn't have the rest of the games without it, and I don't think I can see the remake on here, but oh no, it is there, so we'll get to the remake later on. But yeah, it's a good game. I never finished the original, but I have certainly played it a fair bit. But yeah, it's good fun. Now moving on to Resident Evil 2. Oh, I was about to slap it straight into S tier, but I'm not sure. I'm going to put it in A because better things have come. But Resident Evil 2 was an absolute huge leap from Resident Evil 1, not just graphically in the story, and just the zombies, just the whole. It's like they just rebuilt the whole game from the ground up, and the introduction of Leon and Claire, like some more mainstream characters, and it felt like they were starting to take it more seriously with Resident Evil 2. And I really appreciate that, and it's so much fun. The original is. I think I've got it somewhere in the house actually. I haven't played it in a while. I'd love to stream that actually. If you want to see like any original OG Resident Evil games on the channel, be sure to like and comment in the comments to let me know. Because I'd love to play an OG Resident Evil game. Because obviously everyone's played all the modern ones, but I'd love to play an OG one. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. There. It's not as good as the original 2. It's good. It's very good. I don't think it's as good as Resident Evil 2. The story's definitely not as good. Nemesis is an absolute phenomenal character in it, and the choices whether to fight him or run away from him really add to it. But I don't think it's as good as 2. The story is a bit crazy in that one. It goes a bit all over the place. I love how they sync the story in with 2 as well, with Raccoon City. It was another part of Raccoon City, and it was Jill. Yes, it was Jill. My Resident Evil knowledge just went out the window. But yeah, it's a great game, and it's got some great one-liners in it, and it's a good laugh. But it's a bit clunky at times, Resident Evil 3. Especially if you're an idiot like me and decide to fight Nemesis every time it says fight or run. And I always fight him because I'm an idiot. Oh, Resident Evil Survivor. It's got to be S tier. This game, right, I don't care what anybody says. Resident Evil Survivor, if you played it with the G-Con, if anybody had one of the G-Con, like the PlayStation guns, it's such a classic. It's up there with the Time Crises and the Point Blanks of them kind of G-Con games. For those who don't know what Resident Evil Survivor is, it was like a little spin-off game where it was done for the G-Con, where it was like a gun that you could use as a controller. The zombies were scary as hell in it. Like, they were really, really, really scary. Yes, I'm serious. Resident Evil Survivor is going to be S tier. I adore that game. It's incredible. It plays clunky, but it's a PS1 game. But you could also play it with a controller. I had a PlayStation controller somewhere, but a PS1 or PS2 controller, and it doesn't move as well because it's obviously made to be moving with the G-Con. But it's just so much fun. You can literally finish it in under an hour. It's that kind of game, and it's just literally bang it in, play it for an hour, and it just kills the time. And it's so much fun, and it's so bloody hard at times, but it's amazing. Honestly, I don't care what anybody says. I am freaking serious about this. Resident Evil Survivor is going up there. It's S tier. There will be some more S tiers up there. Don't worry. It's low S tier, but it's up there. Love it. Absolutely love it. Now we get to Resident Evil Code Veronica. I'm about to upset some people with this. Code Veronica is a PS2... Well, it was a Dreamcast game, and it was a PS2 game, and it has clunkier controls than the original Resident Evil. So it's going in C tier, because you start off in the middle of a graveyard with a freaking knife and you spend about half an hour just trying to figure out how you're going to worm your way out of all these zombies, and you can't get anywhere, and it just really demoralizes you. Well, it did for me anyway. It's the story's mental. It's absolutely nuts. Again, I never finished it, but I did play quite a bit of it. It was really spooky when I was a kid, and then when I went back and played it again, I don't have much love for Code Veronica, unfortunately. I know a lot of people do, but me personally, it's got to go C tier, because the story's good in it. The controls are really clunky. If it improved the controls, I'd probably push it up more, but it's all right. It's not going to win any awards in my book. I'm just going to say that. Now we move on to C'est magnifique, a masterpiece. S tier. The Resident Evil remake, I'm on about the GameCube one, is an absolute masterpiece. Anybody who's played it understands that it's absolutely hard as balls. Like, even if you play it as the Jill, so the easy mode, it's hard as balls. The puzzles give you an absolute maniacal headache. The dogs are scary as hell. The Crimson Heads are literally nightmare inducing. But it's just so much fun when you solve the puzzles. Like, you literally feel like a genius. Like, I feel like an absolute whiz, like Brainiac. When you finally figure out how to solve the puzzles, it's amazing. They're even harder, the puzzles are, in the Chris Redfield version of the story. I'd argue the jail version is better, mainly because of the ease of it, and it gives you less of a headache, so you can actually play this. You can get through it a bit quicker, and you can get to the story a bit quicker. Chris's is a lot harder, and it's a lot more gung-ho, and there's a lot more zombies, and they take longer to kill, and there's Crimson Heads everywhere, all over the gaff. And I think the puzzles are harder as well with Chris, so it's just a little bit more annoying with Chris. But again, this one walked, so this could flip and run, like literally. And same with all these. The original Resident Evil walked, so these here above could all run. Could absolutely run. So Resident Evil, the remake of the original, has got to go up there. I don't know what these two are. I didn't play Resident Evil Guide, and there's a Resident Evil Survivor 2. Didn't know that one. So we'll move on to Resident Evil 0. Right. The worst thing about Resident Evil 0 is the fact that there is not any cases you can store your items in. You have to drop items and then go back for them if you want to get them. It's so frustrating because it's a great game, but dropping the items is the worst idea in the world. I really like Resident Evil 0 as a concept. It's great. So I'm going to put it in A because the story is absolutely great. It's a good little Kickstarter for what happened before. It's really good fun. And for those who played Code Veronica, well, not Code Veronica, was it the Umbrella Chronicles, sorry, on the Wii, I think it's here, will understand like that's like a shortened down version of it, and that really helps you to understand the story if you didn't get a chance to play Resident Evil 0. But if you can play Resident Evil 0, definitely give it a go if you're a fan of the others. It's just very annoying with the dropping items, picking them back up. Very frustrating, but very, very good game. I really did enjoy it, and I'm pretty sure I finished that one, or I got right to the end and didn't finish it. One or the other, definitely. Now we're getting to big, I might say, big boy stuff. Resident Evil 4 is one of the greatest games ever made. I literally played it for the first time last year. I know, I'm terrible. The first time last year I played it on my Twitch channel. Go and check it out. There's also shortened down versions on my YouTube channel of my playthrough of this. What a phenomenal game. I can't tell you how much it lives up to the hype everybody gives it. It is so much goddamn fun. Like, even protecting Ashley, like, people were saying, oh, you're gonna hate it, it's dead annoying, it's so frustrating, she's absolutely useless. It's not actually that bad. Like, it's legit, looking after Ashley is not that bad once you know what you're doing with it. Like, people really made it out to be like the worst thing in the world, like she was the worst escort in an escort game ever. But like, when you compare every escort character to Elizabeth from BioShock Infinite, they're all going to be terrible because she looks after herself. But no, Resident Evil 4 is an absolute class game. It's cheesy and hammy as balls. The characters are great. It's hilarious. It's so damn hard. It's so damn scary at times. The regenerators still scare the life out of me. You should have seen my reaction when I was playing it live on Twitch. I was literally this close to tears. But you've just got to give it a go. It's one of those you can talk about it and hype it up 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 to people. But until they actually play it, they won't actually understand how of a phenomenal game it is. It completely reinvented Resident Evil with the third person view, the camera angle, the aiming system, with the weapon system, the inventory system. It literally just kickstarted the revolution of Resident Evil games, and I'm all here for it, and it's absolutely phenomenal. And as you've seen on my YouTube channel, the reaction to the remake coming out, you know how excited I am for it. So yeah, Resident Evil 4 is probably going to stay top of S tier because it's fantastic. And now, speaking of the Umbrella Chronicles, it's here. Now basically the Umbrella Chronicles is it's a game that was released on the Wii, and it's a compilation of Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 0, and another one. Which else was it? I can't remember. It had 3 stories on it, I think. And it was basically like very shortened versions of it done in a first-person view and use the Wii remote as like a gun. It's great fun. Great fun. I'm not going to put it in A tier. I'm going to put it in a high B tier. Because it is just a condensed Resident Evil game. It's first person, so there's not many levels, so it's like a rushed Resident Evil, like a recap kind of game. Basically, if you take out all the gameplay, it's like watching just a mini movie of all the games so far. I'm sure it's 0, 1, and another one, and I can't think what it is. But I remember you had to hold the A button and swing the Wii remote to use the knife, and it was so much fun. And in the Resident Evil 0 version, all the leeches came and jumped on you. There was also a secret story at the end, just to wrap up the side story that was going on in it. Was it 3? Yeah, it was 3. Yeah, you're right, Scotty. Thank you. And it's just great fun. It's really great fun. If you've got a Wii, that is probably one of the best games on the Wii. So I'd recommend you getting your hands on that if you can. Resident Evil 5. Again, I'm about to upset some people because I know a lot of people don't like Resident Evil 5. I have a very big emotional attachment to Resident Evil 5 because this was the game that me and my brother spent hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of hours just kicking the ever-living shit out of Albert Wesker, and I have never had so much fun kicking the absolute poo-poo out of a bad guy. Honestly, we played through the game so many times. We got infinite ammo on every weapon, and we just maxed everything out, and we knew everything about the game. We knew where all the medallions were, we knew where all the chainsaw enemies were, where the crocodiles were, and the swamp-less levels. We knew all the solutions to all the puzzles, and we knew that the 7 minutes with Wesker, we knew how to beat him. And we absolutely had that game memorized, and we were absolutely legendary at it. And I just had so much fun playing it. There was one really crap level in it, and that was the one where you had to control the turrets and shoot the gigantes or whatever they were called. That level I don't like. It's very rubbish. But yeah, literally, and I was literally about to mention it, but my brother's just put in the chat, trying to get the bloody sunglasses off Albert Wesker, trying to punch the sunglasses off him in the combos it was literally like just a fun pastime to try and figure out how to do it. And I've just got so much emotional investment into that game. I adore it. It's great. It's not the scariest. It's not the best Resident Evil game. My chair's very squeaky. I apologise. But it's just for the sentimental value it holds on me, I've got to put it in top S tier because it was fantastic to play. The story was mental. It was absolutely ridiculous. Chris Redfield's biceps are mutantly too big. It's absolutely bonkers, but it's just so much fun. Play it with a friend if you get it. Moving on. I don't know what this is, so I'm not going to comment on it. I can't. Is that the Mercenaries in 3D? No, thank you. You're going there. Resident Evil Revelations. Now, I have a very, very big love-hate relationship with this game because I got it on the Nintendo Switch, right? So on the Nintendo Switch version, it had the 3DS controls, which means that you couldn't turn, basically. Your character turned as if like the old, like in Resident Evil 4, they turned like that. And the last boss in Resident Evil Revelations requires you to turn very, very quickly. Otherwise, you can't beat it. I spent hours of my life trying to beat that bloody boss, and I just couldn't do it. And it is a side game, so it shouldn't really be on this list, but it's in there now, so I'm going to talk about it. It's fun up until that moment, but the story's very poor. It's a bit ridiculous. You can tell it's a bit of a side game. It's not great. I'd probably say it's better than Code Veronica, but I'm not much of a fan of it, especially the last level. It can go suck a fat one. It was so annoying. Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City's on here as well. That can go there too. That's basically just like Revelations, but it was on the 360. It had a bit better controls. The enemies were like the zombies were like bullet sponges, but it was just like playing like a shooter. Like just your typical like third person, like a Call of Duty, or it was like playing Modern Warfare 2 with third person mode on, but shooting zombies. So it was okay. That's not me knocking Modern Warfare 2, but it was just like a very poor version of that. So it's gonna go there, but it's good fun, but it's not great. Resident Evil 6. Oh, Resident Evil 6. Oh, this is gonna upset some people. Hi B. It's probably one of the weakest mainline Resident Evil games ever. Not to say that it's a bad one, because it's not bad. It's just not great. It's just good. You got the 3 separate stories again. You've got Chris and Pierce, which were part of the BSAA. You got Leon and his partner, which I can't remember her name. And you've got Jake and Sherry, which is another story. Oh, and Ada, the fourth hidden story. And they all had like 6 levels in them. And some of the levels were like ridiculously long, like especially the Leon levels. They were like 2-3 hours long, or they felt like that. Again, the zombies was bullet sponges. It was very difficult to get your head around some of the controls with it. It was a bit messy. It's okay once you get the hang of it, but again, you probably need a friend to play it with, because otherwise on your own you're just going to get very annoyed with it. I have promised that I am going to stream it one day, just so you can see how much I rage at it. But yeah, it's good. If you want the Resident Evil experience, you play Leon's story. If you want like a Call of Duty, like Operation Raccoon City experience, you play Chris's story, because he gets all the big guns like the assault rifles and stuff. And Jake's is like a Street Fighter Resident Evil like mashup, because he has like MMA moves and stuff. And it's just an odd game. It can't decide what it wants to be. And then there's the Ada story at the end, which is actually really good, but really, really, really hard. So yeah, again, the story's a mess. Leon's bad guy doesn't know when to quit. The Chris bad guy just looked terrible at the end of it, and Jake's, it was the guy that was chasing you around. He was okay. But yeah, it just can't decide what it wants to be, whether it wants to be an action game or a horror game. It doesn't feel like Resident Evil, apart from the fact it's got the name on it and there's characters from it on there. Play it to say you've played it, but I wouldn't go back and play it, you know what I mean? It's not that good. Resident Evil 7. Oh, it's got to go in S tier. Resident Evil 7 revitalized this franchise for me. After just talking about 6, like I said, I haven't got the greatest of opinion on it. Resident Evil 7 absolutely blew me out of the water. I've played it several times. It's scary as balls still to this day. It's still got the Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of vibes to it. The enemies are fantastic. The gunplay in it is great. This was obviously when the introduction of Ethan Winters as the main protagonist and the first-person views of the game. Running away from the Baker family is one of the most terrifying things in the world, and one day I would like to show you guys it in VR with my reactions. I want to do that because I feel like it'd be hilarious, and I feel like you'd all love that idea. I have played it on the channel. Go and check it out. It's on the YouTube channel. It's only a few parts because it's quite a short game. But yeah, it is great. It's got some really hard moments in it, like the Marguerite boss fight. But that's just what makes it so good, because it's one of those games that's rewardingly tricky until you get to the very end, and then the last boss is a bit disappointing. but the rest of the game makes up for it. And the DLCs are quite good for it too. The Not a Hero DLC with Chris Redfield's very good. And then the End of Zoe DLC, where it turns again into Street Fighter, is a bit weird, but it's great fun, and I'd highly recommend Resident Evil 7 as a starting point. To be fair, it's quite a story-friendly game. You don't need to know everything to get into it. It's literally just a Chris Redfield cameo at the end of it. And that's really about it. There's little bits here and there, but you don't need to know everything to play it. So it's a great game. It's an absolutely fantastic game, and it plays really, really well, and it really helped me to get back into the series. So it's definitely going there. I'm skipping these ones because I haven't played them, just for clearance. So we're going to jump to Resident Evil 2, and it's going up here because it's one of the greatest remakes of all time. Everybody raves about it. It's absolutely fantastic. It's that game is horrendously scary. Like, the original Resident Evil 2 is quite scary. The remake is really scary. The first time you enter that police station and you've got no idea where you're going, it's like an absolute labyrinthian maze. You've got to solve all these puzzles. You're literally Leon with a pistol and a knife that'll break in like 2 hits. And you've got no idea what you're doing. The first time you experience that, it is terrifying. The bosses are really difficult. They are absolute sponges. They take a lot of ammo. You genuinely have to look after your resources in this game. And I think that's why I love it so much, because it is a proper return to earth, like Resident Evil. It's like if they had the power they do nowadays, with it back in the day, I think this is the story they'd tell. I prefer Leon's story to Claire's story in this, mainly just because, like I said, the atmosphere, it's scarier. But then again, you do play as Sherry for one bit in the Claire campaign, and that bit is the scariest part of the whole game. Never mind Mr. X chasing you around the police station. Never mind, is it Spencer? I think it's Spencer, chasing you around and trying to kill you. When the police chief is chasing Sherry through the orphanage, it's one of the most scariest experiences of my life. And again, we're going to stream this very, very soon, actually. It's on the list. I've played it, like I said, I've played it in my spare time. I've just not showed you guys. But we'll definitely give it a go. It's a cracking game, absolutely great. The visually beautiful storyline is Resident Evil, so it's corny, but it's great. Play it. That's my recommendation. It's definitely get a 10 out of 10. Like these ones here for me, like these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 5 here would be a 10 out of 10. Survive, okay, we'll put Survivor there, just to be a bit more. To be a bit more sensible. Like, okay, these are top tier games. Survivor's still a top tier game to me personally. Resident Evil Resistance I've not played. Resident Evil 3 Remake. Too short. Too goddamn short. But for what it was fantastic. It was the first game I streamed on my Twitch channel, and the first game you'll see on the YouTube channel. It's so much fun. It controls really, really well. The enemies aren't as scary. Nemesis isn't very scary. I'd say he's just a nuisance. Visually, he looks incredible. In fact, I think I'm going to do that. Yeah, that's more sensible. I would say the original. Just is it better? Story-wise, it's definitely better. It's longer. It's more developed. They didn't miss out the best level in the goddamn game in this one with the clock tower. But Nemesis is a lot more of a threat in 3, so I'm definitely going to do that. He looks amazing in this one, and playing as Carlos in the hospital is a great bit as well. Jill plays fantastic as well. The last boss with Nemesis is tricky if you don't have the resources, but once you've done it once and you go back and play it again, you absolutely annihilate him. But again, it's one of those that you can stick on and just play for an hour, and it's just good fun. Whereas this, with 2, you have to think about and actually have to be very careful. 3, you can kind of throw that all out the window because it's much more of an action-packed kind of game. But it is very good. It's not as good as the Resident Evil 2 remake, but it is very, very, very good. It is very close to it for me, but it's not as good as these 2. Definitely not. Resident Evil Village. Where am I putting Resident Evil Village? Now I really like Resident Evil Village. It's great. The first time I played it, did it feel like a Resident Evil game? No. Just the fact Chris Redfield was there, it doesn't make it a Resident Evil game to me. It felt like I was playing. If you've ever seen the movie Underworld, it felt like I was playing like an Underworld homage with like Van Helsing vibes. It was very strange. It's a very strange game the first time you play it, because it's got the vampires. Obviously, it's got Lady Dimitrescu and the vampires. It's got the mold men. It's got werewolves. It was kind of like just every like once upon a time Netflix like fantasy series just molded into one, and it was a bit crazy, but it's just so much fun to play. Like it plays better. It plays better than 7, but it's not as good as 7. It plays like the gun plays better, but the characters and the story isn't better. It wraps a lot of things up that carried on from 7, and it tells us the origins of Umbrella and everything, so it does wrap like the whole series up into a nice little bow, but it's not as good as 7. No chance it's as good as 7. It's got some great moments in it. It's got some phenomenal characters in it. Like you got Lady Dimitrescu, who's a great character. Heisenberg's quite a cool character. Mother Miranda, she's very cool with the whole twist at the end. Chris is very cool in this one. Yeah, it's got some great moments in it. But again, it's more of an action game than a horror game, I feel like. I'm excited to play the DLC when Ethan's daughter returns to the village, and the third person mode, that should make it a bit more interesting. It'll probably make it feel like Resident Evil 3, the remake, to be fair, with the third person mode, but I will definitely be playing that. I'll be interested to see how that goes. But no, Resident Evil Village is a great game. It's just not these. It's not these. The Resident Evil 4 remake is here. Now, I'm not going to put it in. I'm going to say where I think it's going to go, and I think it's going to go there or there. It's either going to be better or worse than the original Resident Evil 4. A lot of people will probably be biased of the original and say the original is better because of what it brought to the table. But if they play their cards right, this bad boy is better, and visually it already looks better. But they've got big boots to fill with this Resident Evil 4 remake. But I do feel like they can do it if they know what they're doing, and I trust Capcom. I trust them a lot after these Resident Evil remakes here. They did a great job with them. So yeah, I cannot wait for that. We'll definitely be playing that when I get my hands on it. But that is my tier list. Obviously, I can't do the ones I haven't played. I'm not going to be that nasty. Mercenaries did my head in, and it was on the 3DS, so that's why that's there. But if you agree, if you disagree, let me know. I think that's a pretty fair assumption. I've emotionally, physically, and like I've analysed the games, so I feel like I've been quite fair with that. But yeah, let us know if you agree or disagree. I love the Resident Evil series. It's had some absolute stinkers, like many game series have. But the ones that shine at the top shine bright enough to hide the stinkers, I'd say. So that's going to do it for the tier list. I hope you enjoyed it. Do let us know if you want more tier lists, and I'll catch you soon. See you in a bit.